Well, Florida Senator Rick Scott is thanking Senator Katie Britt for voting for him in the leadership race. Senator Britt released a statement yesterday saying that she voted for Scott to be Senate Majority Leader, but he failed to advance to the final round. But even though the vote is secret, several social media posts began circulating accusing Britt of lying about her vote. Senator Rick Scott posted on social media again thanking her for that support in the first round and called on Republicans to work together to advance President-elect Donald Trump's agenda.
Hey folks, Dale Jackson here for Yellowhammer Now. Let's talk a little bit about secret ballots. Now, the Katie Britt situation in the United States Senate, where she voted for Rick Scott on the first ballot, caused a little consternation with a lot of people suggesting that she was lying. Now, this was very dumb, but a lot of people still suggested it, even though Rick Scott himself came out and said, "Thank you, Katie Britt, for voting for me." And then Mike Lee, the senator from Utah, came out and said, "Thank you very much for voting for me." Now, this was all about Senate leadership in the United States Senate, and some people were more outspoken than others, and some people announced their votes afterwards, and some announced beforehand, and all these other things. But here's why this is an issue. If they would just vote publicly, we wouldn't have to worry about any of this. The whole secret ballot thing is fine when we're talking about us having a conversation about who we voted for. If we want to tell people, we can. If we don't have to. But if you're an elected official taking a vote, whether it is to decide who leads your party or who leads the chamber, we should know exactly who that is every step along the way. Now, we'll know when the final vote comes and they have this vote and the Democrats are involved as well, because that's going to be on the record. But forget about that. We should know inside the caucus as well. And that is not just in the United States Senate, because there is now an issue in the Senate in the state of Alabama with the Alabama State Senate that we now have to talk about. Del Marsh, the former Senate Pro Tem, cared very much about school choice and tried to get something done on gambling. These were things that he pushed and tried to get these things done. There was a focus on that. So it matters who it is. Could we see a change in priorities based on who wins here? And is there a pro-Medicaid candidate? Is there a Medicaid expansion candidate? Is there going to be a pro, gambling, get something done lottery candidate? I mean, am I too much House of Cards in this thing?
I think what you'll find with anybody who succeeds Senator Reid in that position, I believe you'll find more openness with the caucus and more with the leadership group, and there will be more input into what the Senate does or does not do. And I just think there'll be more communication and it'll be more a caucus decision or leadership group decision. And that decision would be based on what the caucus wants or the conference, as we call it. So all that to say, you would find a new leader more responsive, I think, due to the circumstances, to the overall desire for a direction coming from more members rather than just the pro tem making the call and we moving in that direction.
And before I go any further, let me just say this. What a piss poor job our friends in the traditional mainstream media have done. They have not even touched this issue. Now, I go through and I look at all the videos and things that are put out by our different media outlets. I have a website I can go to where I can search and see whether the name Greg Reed, who is the current Speaker Pro Tem of the Alabama State Senate, see whether his name appears in any newscast all over the state of Alabama. And no, it hasn't. They haven't covered it at all. They probably don't even know it's happening because they are so bad at their jobs. But it is happening, and it's important. And now we're going to have a battle in the Alabama State Senate, which is really going to be in the Republican Party. Will it be Steve Livingston? Will it be Garland Gudger? Does anyone watching this even know who those people are? Well, the answer to that is it will probably be Steve Livingston. And no, people don't know who these people are. But they should be casting a public vote as well. if it's good for the United States Senate, and it would be, it's also good for the Alabama State Senate. We should not be having politicians who tell you, hey, I'm going to go down there and vote your interest, saying, hey, it's a secret ballot. I don't like that. Shouldn't be happening there, shouldn't be happening here, and we should demand more from our elected officials. Then we wouldn't have to have these conversations where people say, well, did you do this? Did you do that? Well, we don't know. No, there would be a record, and I think that might change the way some people vote as well. But until we do something like that, you really just have to take their word for it. I'm not suggesting anyone's lying here either. I think it's pretty clear that if Katie Britt says I voted for Rick Scott and Rick Scott says thank you for voting for me, that answers that question. But if it was a public ballot, we wouldn't even have the question because we'd already know all the answers. That's the solution. And yes, it matters. I understand the Republican Party is a private organization, all this other stuff. But by all intents and purposes, we're a two-party state, right? Two-party system, both nationally and in the state of Alabama. And whoever leads these parties leads these bodies. And we should know who those people are.